Grand Theft Auto 6. Grand Theft Auto 6 isn't just another sequel, it's a cultural reset button. After a decade of memes, mods, and midnight debates, Rockstar is stepping back into the spotlight with a world designed to feel alive, reactive, and relentlessly ambitious. Expect cities that breathe, NPCs that remember you, and systems that turn every small choice into a story worth telling. GTA 6 aims to blur the line between sandbox chaos and cinematic drama, pushing immersion with smarter AI, denser crowds, and a living economy that changes as you play. The narrative promises sharper satire, modern themes, and characters built for the social media age, all wrapped in Rockstar's signature polish. Online, the ripple effects could redefine live service expectations, mixing player creativity with evolving events and tools. Technically, this is a PS5 showcase: faster loading, seamless interiors, and scale without compromise. Culturally, it's a moment: streamers, speedrunners, creators, and casual players colliding at once. If GTA 5 set records, GTA 6 is poised to rewrite them, shaping how open worlds are built, shared, and talked about for years to come worldwide, instantly forever. Marvel's Wolverine. Marvel's Wolverine is Insomniac's chance to prove that mature superhero games can hit harder than spectacle alone. This isn't about flashy gadgets or citywide chaos. It's about brutality, restraint, and consequence. Wolverine's claws aren't just weapons, they are storytelling tools, forcing close quarter combat that feels personal, painful, and raw. Expect smaller, denser environments where every encounter matters, backed by animations that sell weight, damage, and recovery. Narratively, Insomniac is leaning into Logan's darker side: isolation, regret, and the cost of violence. Themes rarely explored these deeply in licensed games. On PS5, the game can slow things down, letting ray traced lighting, environmental destruction, and reactive enemies elevate tension instead of noise. This is a character study disguised as an action game, aiming to redefine how superhero stories are told interactively. If successful, Wolverine could open the door for more grounded, adult focused adaptations across the industry. Not every blockbuster needs to save the world. Sometimes, changing the genre starts with sharpening the claws and cutting deeper. For players craving intensity, this could be the blueprint for future prestige, narrative driven action titles worldwide evolution. Resident Evil Requiem. Resident Evil Requiem is survival horror stepping back into its most powerful weapon: fear. After years of action heavy spectacle, this entry is humored to refocus on tension, atmosphere, and vulnerability. Requiem isn't about mowing down monsters, it's about surviving them. Expect darker environments, limited resources, and encounters designed to make you hesitate before pulling the trigger. The sound design alone could redefine immersion, with distant footsteps, environmental creaks, and silence doing as much work as jump scares. On PS5, lighting tech and instant loading allow horror to flow uninterrupted, keeping you trapped in dread with no escape. Narratively, Requiem signals a tonal shift, confronting loss, guilt, and the aftermath of endless outbreaks. This could be the chapter that recenters Resident Evil as the genre's gold standard, influencing pacing, perspective, and player psychology across future horror games. If it lands, Requiem won't just scare players, it will remind the industry that fear is more effective than firepower, and restraint can be terrifying. True survival horror lives here, waiting patiently in the dark, and that darkness could define horror gaming for an entire generation. 007 First Light. 007 First Light has the potential to reinvent spy games the same way GoldenEye once did, but for a modern generation. This isn't the Bond you know at the peak of his legend. This is the making of him. The game leans into Bond's origin, focusing on mistakes, improvisation, and learning when to pull the trigger or walk away. Gameplay blends stealth, gadgets, social manipulation, and cinematic action, giving players multiple ways to solve problems instead of one loud solution. On PS5, dense environments, crowd AI, and seamless transitions between exploration and set pieces could make every mission feel like a playable film. The tone aims to be grounded and stylish, emphasizing tension over explosions and intelligence over chaos. If executed right, First Light could redefine narrative-driven action games by rewarding patience, observation, and choice. This is Bond as a thinking person's power fantasy, not just saving the world, but navigating it. If the industry is listening, 007 First Light might remind developers that subtlety, pacing, and confidence can be just as revolutionary as raw spectacle. Sometimes the quietest moves leave the deepest impact on gaming history. Saros. Saros feels like Housemarque doubling down on everything that made Returnal special, while refusing to play it safe. This is fast, aggressive action built around mastery, momentum, and controlled chaos. Saros leans into roguelite design, but with a heavier focus on narrative continuity, making each run feel like part of a larger psychological journey rather than a reset. Combat is expected to be precise and punishing, demanding skill, awareness, and adaptability from players who want to survive. On PS5, Housemarque's technical strengths shine: instant restarts, fluid animations, haptic feedback, and particle heavy effects that never compromise performance. What makes Saros exciting is its confidence. It's not chasing trends, it's refining a style that rewards dedication and learning. The atmosphere hints at isolation, mystery, and existential themes, pushing the story forward through repetition and discovery. If Saros lands, it could prove that high budget roguelites can stand alongside traditional AAA blockbusters. Not every industry shaking game needs open worlds or hundreds of hours. Sometimes, tight design, relentless pacing, and artistic clarity are enough to change expectations forever, inspiring studios to take bold risks again. Marathon. Marathon represents Bungie stepping into a future where shooters aren't just about reflexes, but meaning. This isn't a simple reboot, it's a reimagining built around narrative, atmosphere, and player driven tension. Marathon leans into extraction style gameplay, where every decision matters because survival isn't guaranteed and loss is permanent. That pressure transforms combat into something psychological, forcing players to weigh risk versus reward in every encounter. Bungie's strength in gunfeel and sandbox balance gives Marathon a strong foundation, but the real hook is its world: surreal sci fi visuals, cryptic storytelling, and lore that unfolds through play rather than cutscenes. On PS5, expect smooth performance, sharp audio cues, and haptics that heighten awareness and dread. If successful, Marathon could redefine how story is delivered in multiplayer focused games, proving narrative doesn't have to be sacrificed for competition. This is Bungie challenging its own legacy, moving beyond familiar formulas. Marathon isn't trying to replace Destiny, it's carving a new lane entirely. And if players embrace its tension and mystery, it could push the industry toward deeper, more meaningful, shared world experiences built on trust, danger, and consequence. Nioh 3. Nioh 3 represents the evolution of precision combat at its most demanding. Team Ninja isn't interested in making things easier, they're interested in making them deeper. This sequel is expected to refine stance based combat, expand enemy variety, and push player skill expression even further. Every fight in Nioh is a test of timing, positioning, and discipline, and Nioh 3 aims to elevate that formula with smarter AI and more reactive encounters. On PS5, faster loading and smoother performance keeps players locked into the flow, where death is a lesson, not a setback. The world design hints at broader environments and more flexible exploration, while still maintaining the tight, lethal combat loop fans love. Narratively, Nioh 3 can explore myth, history, and identity through its signature dark fantasy lens. If it succeeds, it reinforces the idea that hardcore action RPGs can thrive without compromise. Nioh doesn't chase mass appeal, it builds loyalty through respect for player mastery. In an industry leaning toward accessibility, Nioh 3 could stand as proof that challenge, when designed well, is timeless and still capable of shaping the future of action games worldwide. Code Vein 2. Code Vein 2 has the opportunity to refine anime-style Souls-like design into something truly distinctive. The first game proved there was a massive audience hungry for stylish combat, deep customization, and emotionally charged storytelling. This sequel is expected to expand those ideas with smoother combat flow, more expressive builds, and environments that feel less linear and more alive. What sets Code Vein apart is identity: flashy abilities, partner driven mechanics, and a tone that blends tragedy with hope. On PS5, faster performance and richer visuals can elevate its anime aesthetic, making combat effects pop without sacrificing readability. Narrative will likely play a bigger role, focusing on bonds, sacrifice, and survival in a collapsing world. If Code Vein 2 tightens its systems and balances challenge with accessibility, it could become a gateway Souls-like for new players while still satisfying veterans. That balance is powerful. It shows difficulty doesn't have to be alienating to be meaningful. Code Vein 2 could influence how future action RPGs approach style, storytelling, and approachability, proving that personality and polish can stand toe to toe with pure brutality in the evolving genre landscape. Crimson Desert. Crimson Desert is aiming to be the kind of open world game that doesn't just impress visually but changes expectations. Built around a vast dynamic world, it promises large scale battles, cinematic storytelling, and a sense of freedom that feels truly next gen. Unlike traditional RPGs, Crimson Desert blends single player narrative focus with systems inspired by online worlds, making the environment feel constantly alive. Combat looks weighty and grounded, mixing melee, ranged, and large-scale encounters that feel reactive rather than scripted. On PS5, the scale is the real flex: distant landscapes with no loading breaks, dense weather systems, and physics-driven destruction that sells immersion. The story leans into loyalty, conflict, and survival, giving emotional context to its epic scope. If Pearl Abyss delivers on ambition, Crimson Desert could reset the open world formula by merging spectacle with depth. This isn't about filling a map with icons, it's about creating a world players want to exist in. If successful, it could influence how future open world games balance realism, narrative, and player freedom across the industry. Lego Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight. Lego Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight could be the moment Lego games grow up without losing their soul. This entry isn't just slapstick humor and simple puzzles. It's a celebration of Batman's entire legacy, remixed through Lego's charm. Expect multiple eras, iconic villains, and Gotham reimagined with more scale and interactivity than ever before. The real evolution is structure. Instead of isolated levels, Legacy of the Dark Knight aims for hub-based worlds that encourage exploration, secrets, and replayability. On PS5, smoother performance, richer lighting, and dense environments make LEGO Gotham feel alive and reactive. For families, it's accessible fun. For longtime fans, it's nostalgia layered with modern design. That crossover appeal is powerful. If done right, this game could redefine what family-friendly blockbusters look like, proving they don't have to be shallow or disposable. Lego Batman has always been about joy, but this time it could also be about legacy, honoring decades of stories while pushing the genre forward. In an industry chasing realism, this reminds everyone that creativity, humor, and smart design can still blow up expectations and bring generations of players together. Halo Campaign Evolved. Halo Campaign Evolved could be one of the most disruptive releases of the decade, not because it's new, but because of what it represents. A legendary FPS campaign rebuilt from the ground up for a new audience, potentially landing on PS5, would signal a seismic industry shift. This isn't nostalgia alone, it's preservation and evolution. Expect reimagined missions, smarter enemy AI, refined gunplay, and cinematic storytelling that respects the original while modernizing pacing and presentation. On PS5, enhanced visuals, spatial audio, and instant loading could make Halo's ring world feel more alive and mysterious than ever. The campaign's strength has always been its rhythm: quiet exploration, explosive combat, and iconic set pieces that let players breathe between battles. If executed with care, Campaign Evolved could reintroduce a generation to why Halo mattered and still matters. Beyond gameplay, its impact would be symbolic. Platform lines blur, legacy walls fall, and players benefit. This wouldn't just be a remake, it would be a statement about accessibility, shared history, and the future of gaming ecosystems. Sometimes changing the industry means reopening a door everyone thought was permanently closed. Dragon Quest VII Reimagined. Dragon Quest VII Reimagined has the potential to remind the industry why classic JRPG design still matters. This isn't about reinventing the genre with gimmicks, it's about refining one of its most beloved foundations. The original game was massive, slow burning, and deeply emotional, built around discovery, time, and consequence. A modern reimagining can streamline pacing while preserving its heart, rich characters, thoughtful storytelling, and a sense of adventure that unfolds gradually. On PS5, upgraded visuals, orchestral sound, and quality of life improvements could make this epic more approachable without losing depth. What makes Dragon Quest special is its sincerity. It doesn't chase trends or spectacle, it earns attachment through consistency and warmth. If done right, this remake could bridge generations, introducing new players to classic JRPG values while rewarding longtime fans. Its success would signal renewed respect for traditional turn based systems in a market dominated by action RPGs. Dragon Quest VII Reimagined could prove that patience, charm, and narrative clarity still resonate. Sometimes, moving the industry forward means looking back, polishing what worked, and showing that timeless design never truly ages. High on Life 2. High on Life 2 has a real chance to prove that personality can be just as powerful as polish. The first game broke through the noise by embracing absurd humor, non-stop dialogue, and a world that felt unapologetically weird. This sequel isn't about toning that down, it's about sharpening it. Expect louder weapons, stranger aliens, and a comedy that reacts more intelligently to player choices. On PS5, smoother performance and denser environments allow the jokes to land without technical distractions, letting timing and delivery do the work. But beneath the humor, High on Life 2 could evolve mechanically, tightening gunplay and level design so it's not just funny, but genuinely satisfying to play. The balance matters. If it succeeds, it shows the industry there's room for risk taking voices in a market crowded with safe sequels. Not every breakout hit needs realism or epic drama. Sometimes, leaning fully into identity is the innovation. High on Life 2 could inspire more studios to embrace bold tone, irreverence, and creative freedom. And if players respond again, it may cement comedy driven games as viable, repeatable successes rather than one hit curiosities. Reanimal. Reanimal is the kind of indie game that can quietly reshape expectations through creativity rather than scale. At first glance, it looks playful and approachable, but underneath that surface is a smart, emotionally driven experience built around exploration and discovery. Reanimal leans into charm, using expressive animation, environmental storytelling, and inventive mechanics to keep players curious. Every area feels handcrafted, rewarding attention instead of checklist completion. On PS5, smooth performance and crisp visuals allow its art style to shine, proving that technical power isn't just for realism. What makes Reanimal exciting is its confidence. It doesn't try to mimic AAA trends, it commits fully to its identity. That authenticity resonates with players who want something memorable rather than massive. Narratively, Reanimal hints at themes of transformation, companionship, and survival, told subtly through gameplay instead of exposition. If it connects, Reanimal could become a breakout hit that reminds the industry why indie games matter. Big budgets don't guarantee impact, clear vision does. Games like this influence design culture quietly, inspiring developers to prioritize heart, creativity, and smart mechanics. Reanimal may not shout, but its voice could echo far longer than expected in the evolving PS5 landscape. Fatal Frame 2 Crimson Butterfly Remake. Fatal Frame 2 Crimson Butterfly Remake could reintroduce a forgotten kind of fear to modern audiences. Unlike action driven horror, Fatal Frame is built on vulnerability. Your weapon isn't power, it's proximity. The camera forces you to face what terrifies you, creating tension that few franchises have ever matched. This remake has the chance to modernize visuals and controls while preserving the slow, suffocating atmosphere that made the original legendary. On PS5, lighting, shadows, and spatial audio can transform familiar locations into deeply unsettling spaces where silence becomes the loudest threat. Narratively, Crimson Butterfly is intimate and tragic, focusing on loss, guilt, and bonds that refuse to break. That emotional weight is rare in horror games today. If handled with respect, this remake could spark a resurgence of psychological horror, reminding developers that fear doesn't need explosions or constant enemies. It needs restraint and confidence. Fatal Frame 2 isn't about surviving monsters, it's about confronting them. And if players respond, this could influence how horror is designed in the future slower, quieter, and far more personal than what we have grown used to in recent years. Monster Hunter Stories 3 Twisted Reflection. Monster Hunter Stories 3 Twisted Reflection could redefine what a spin off is capable of. While the mainline Monster Hunter games focus on skill heavy action, stories lean into strategy, bonding, and narrative choice. This third entry has the opportunity to go darker and deeper, exploring moral ambiguity, fractured worlds, and the consequences of human monster relationships. Turn based combat returns with more complexity, encouraging smart team building and tactical thinking rather than reflexes. On PS5, expressive animations, vibrant environments, and cinematic storytelling can elevate the series beyond its handheld roots. What makes stories special is emotional investment. These monsters aren't loot, they're companions, and losing one matters. If Twisted Reflection expands player choice and consequence, it could influence how RPGs handle relationships and progression. This game shows that accessibility doesn't mean simplicity, and that family-friendly visuals can coexist with serious themes. If it lands, Monster Hunter Stories 3 could inspire other franchises to experiment boldly without abandoning their core identity. Sometimes the most impactful innovation comes from side paths, not main roads, and this could be Capcom's reminder that storytelling and heart can be just as powerful as spectacle. Onimusha Way of the Sword. Onimusha Way of the Sword feels like a long overdue revival of a legendary action series that helped define stylish samurai combat. This isn't just nostalgia, it's refinement. Onimusha's identity has always been about precision, timing, and atmosphere, blending historical fantasy with deliberate swordplay. Way of the Sword has the chance to modernize that formula without losing its soul, focusing on weighty combat where every strike matters. On PS5, high fidelity animations, reactive enemies, and dramatic lighting can bring feudal Japan to life in ways the series could only hint at before. Narratively, Onimusha thrives on myth and honor, telling focused stories rather than sprawling epics. That restraint is refreshing. If Capcom leans into tight level design and meaningful progression, this could stand apart from open world fatigue. The impact goes beyond one franchise. A successful Onimusha revival would signal renewed interest in mid sized, premium action games that value craftsmanship over scale. It proves not every hit needs endless content, just unforgettable moments. Way of the Sword could inspire studios to revisit dormant IPs with care and confidence, showing that legacy titles still have room to evolve and shape modern action design. Toxic Commando. Toxic Commando looks like a throwback, but its potential impact is surprisingly modern. At its core, this game celebrates pure, cooperative chaos, friends teaming up against overwhelming odds, with ridiculous weapons and unapologetic action. It embraces the spirit of classic arcade shooters, where fun comes first and complexity takes a back seat to momentum. On PS5, fast loading, stable performance, and dense enemy swarms let Toxic Commando deliver non-stop intensity without technical friction. What makes it interesting is timing. As many games chase live service depth and endless progression, Toxic Commando dares to be immediate. Jump in, blow things up, laugh, repeat. That simplicity is powerful. If it connects with players, it could influence a shift toward more focused, session based experiences that respect time without sacrificing excitement. The tone is bold, exaggerated, and self aware, proving games don't always need emotional weight to matter. Sometimes joy is the point. Toxic Commando could remind the industry that not every innovation is about realism or narrative. Sometimes it's about rediscovering why people fell in love with games in the first place. Fun, shared chaos can still be revolutionary when delivered with confidence and polish. If you enjoyed this list, smash like, subscribe for more PS5 content, and comment which game you are most excited for in 2026.